Hey, hey. Welcome everybody to Miss Glow's Kitchen, where there's sugar, spice, and everything nice, where we slice, dice, and entice, using everything we can, from peppers to allspice. What's up, my people? Y'all know what time it is? See y'all in the kitchen. A peach cobbler pound cake is on our menu today. All right, YouTube fam, here's what we need for the cake part of this. All right, we're gonna need 3 cups of sugar. Yep, we're gonna cut back a little bit just because we're gonna use the peach juice and some brown sugar too. All right, so we need 4 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons vanilla extract, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 4 sticks of butter, salted or unsalted. If you use unsalted, then you're gonna need about a half teaspoon of salt. All right, we need 1 1/4 cups of milk, 6 eggs. Make sure the eggs, the milk, and the butter are all room temperature. All right, y'all know what I always say, ain't nothing to it but to do it. So let's get to it. This recipe has a lot of moving parts to it, all right? So a lot of things to do. So I'm gonna split this one up in chapters. So if you have your own cake, you can skip ahead to the topping and the glaze, or you can just watch the entire video if you want to. All right, so now for the 4 cups of flour, you wanna make sure you sift it. I'm using all-purpose flour. If you're using cake flour, I'm gonna be really truthful. I have no idea how much you need to use. I always use all-purpose flour for my cakes. So in this case, 4 cups, make sure you sift it. You don't want any balls of raw flour showing up in your cake when you're done. So that's the purpose of doing that. All right, so once we do that, as you can see right there, baking is exact. So when you get that heaping cup of flour, you're gonna take something with a flat edge like a knife, you're gonna run it across there so that you get a perfect 1 cup amount of flour. Okay? All right, so let's move on to the next step. We're going to do the white granulated sugar the same way we did the flour. However, you're going to do 2 cups of this sugar. So we're going to do 1 1/4 cups of packed brown sugar. When you say packed brown sugar, push it down into that measuring cup. Make sure it's flat on the top so you've got perfectly 1 cup, and then measure out 1/4 after that. Now into that sugar, you're going to put your 4 sticks of butter. Make sure these are softened. Make sure they're warm, they're room temperature. Cold butter, you're going to have a problem right here. So don't skip that step, the step of softening the butter, okay? All right, get them in there and we'll go on from there. All right, so now we'll attach the bowl to the mixer and we'll start creaming the butter and sugar. If you're using a hand mixer, same thing. Start creaming the butter and sugar. It's going to sort of look light and fluffy, if you will. This is what you should see. So this is the beginning of creaming our butter and sugar. So you'll know you're at the right point when it starts looking a little fluffier than it looked when you started. Now all of the sugar granules, they will not go away. So if you have a spatula and you're checking for it, it's not going to go away. So it's not going to dissolve right here. But you just want a fluffier looking mixture. Now once you get to that point, you're going to start putting your eggs in 1 at a time. So you put them all in till you get it in. Now once you get all of the eggs in, this is going to start looking like peanut butter. I can say a creamy peanut butter. And when you get it to that the creamy peanut butter, that's when we're going to start putting the other ingredients in. When the mixture looks like this, so creamier than it was, you're going to put in 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. So we're going to bump up the flavor right here. All right. I am going to use an imitation rum. Now, if you want to be grown and sexy, put the real rum in there. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, so people use all kind of flavor profiles for this cake. So keep in mind it's a peach cobbler cake. So you can use some other flavorings. You can, if you just want to leave the brown sugar flavor, then you can add extra butter flavoring in here. It bumps it up a little bit. You can use almond. You can use a citrus like an orange. You can put, a little bit of lemon. So sky's the limit with flavor profiles for this cake. We're up to the final step as far as the cake part of this. So now this is the part where we'll alternate the dry mixture with the wet mixture. All right, so the flour and the baking powder, they're in together, and we've got the milk. Some people say end with the milk, some people say end with the flour. I've ended with both of them, and I've gotten the same result out of my cake. So it makes no difference which one you start with, which one you end with, so long as you end up with a creamy, smooth, tasty batter. All right, so we're going to do this in 3. So we're going to put flour in 3 times and milk in 3 times. So eyeball accordingly, but at least do it in 3s. You don't want to do half and half. You don't want to overmix your cake, but you want to make sure that it's mixed well too. So, all right, sorry, that's for my Instagram. So, but anyway, alternate, and that's what it's going to start looking like. So it's going to start looking more like cake batter. All right. Doesn't matter what kind of mixer you use. At some point, you want to scrape down the sides and the bottom of your bowl. So you want to make sure you've got all of your ingredients in this cake, because hey, we're trying to put all the flavor that we can in this bad boy. All right. So now at the end of this is ready, and let's move on to the next step. Now let's get the can of peaches open. We're going to get it drained in here. All right, save this juice. Don't throw it away. All right, so see, it's a piece of pit on that peach, so I don't want to leave that on there. It's kind of a little bit unsightly. So now what we're going to do with this is we're going to dry these peaches off. All right, because if you leave too much juice on them, you're going to have a soggy top of your cake. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to line a platter with some paper towels, and we're going to lay our peaches on there. Dry them off individually. Now, by the same token, we're drying this off. We're going to season them as well. Now, what I'm showing you in the cake pan is there are some larger compartments for me and then the smaller ones. So we're going to take the bigger peaches, but you'll see this later. I'm going to put it in there. We're going to take the smaller ones and, of course, put it in those smaller indentions in the pan. But right now, let's get to these peaches and getting them dried off. All right, so let's get them all laid out, and then we can dry and move on. So I sped this up, but yet I left it slow enough so you can see what I'm doing exactly. So I counted the compartments in the bundt pan. So I'm going to do that amount, plus I'm going to do a couple extra just in case I rip a peach or drop one or anything. So just make sure you do a couple extra. All right, so get them laid out on here. You see I'm counting. They're laid out on here. All right, so we're going to dry it. And then we're going to flip them over. We're going to dry them again. So once we dry this other side, we're going to move on to the actual putting the seasoning on here, the nutmeg and cinnamon. So at this point, you do not need brown sugar. You'll see why in a minute. So just nutmeg and cinnamon will be fine. And you do want to season both sides of the peaches. So, but I'll give you these measurements. I'll do all of that in the description box down below, but if you just want to do it now, you can do like a teaspoon of cinnamon, half teaspoon of nutmeg. Nutmeg is very strong, it'll take your dish over, so you want to put more cinnamon than that. All right, so you want to put double the amount of cinnamon, in other words. So if you're going to do multiple cakes, so now you know you'll double the cinnamon. So okay, all right, so I'm going to season this side. I'm going to season the other side, and then I'll come back. So obviously you're going to spray your bundt pan or your cake pan, whatever you're using, with a generous amount of non-stick spray. All right. So if you want to use Baker's Joy or something like that, whatever brand you use is fine. All right. So now, of course, you'll start putting the larger peaches in the larger indentions on here, and then the smaller ones I'm picking, and I'm going to put those, in between the larger peaches, okay? And so once you have those lined up all in there, what you're going to do is you're going to take some brown sugar. Now right here I'm going to use light brown sugar. I think it doesn't make a difference whether you use light or brown. It just won't make too much of a difference. So you're going to sprinkle a generous amount on your peaches. Now this is right before the batter is going in, so the batter is going to go right on top of this. All right, so you want to make sure you hit every peach with some of that sugar. All right, so I'm going to bring the camera over so you can see it's all lined up in there. Brown sugar is in there. Now we'll start putting the batter in. Don't haphazardly pour your batter in. The batter is very thick, but you do want to be very careful. You don't want your peaches to fall over. So if you've designed your peaches like I did, then hey, be careful putting your batter in. But if you just cut them up and they're just all helter-skelter everywhere in the bottom of the pan, then pour your batter everywhere in the bottom of the pan. But it's going to depend on you. So just if the holiday season is coming up, for presentation purposes, then be careful. Put your batter in there neatly. And don't put your batter all the way to the top of the pan. You want to fill this about 2/3 of the way. Yes, the cake will rise. It's going to rise beautifully. You'll see. You will see. All right, so now that I put that in, I'm going to take the rest of the batter, and then we'll just go around and we'll get it all in. To prevent air holes in the cake, so you're going to shake it out so that it's even on the top, but then you're going to hit it on a hard surface. Make sure you don't hit it on a table or a countertop or something you can break. So whatever won't break, I will usually take my pan and I'll do it like 4 times. So I'll let it hit that bottom, and that should knock your air bubbles out of there, because you don't want to cut your cake and all of a sudden you got a big hole in the middle of one of the slices. So that's the reason why we do that. All right, so now this is going to go into a 350-degree oven for an hour and 15 minutes. And so if for some reason after 15 minutes your toothpick still isn't clean, put it in for about 10 more minutes until your toothpick does come out clean. Put it on a cooling rack like this. Let it cool for about 10 to 15 minutes. So for this cake, we're going to make a crumble topping, a glaze, and we're going to make a peach mixture to put on the top. So this is the crumble topping. So into a bowl, you want to put 1½ cups of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of white granulated sugar. So you're going to put a tablespoon of cinnamon, tablespoon of brown sugar, and you're going to put 1½ sticks of butter. Now, I do recommend that you do this with a fork as opposed to a whisk or anything else you might think to use. I am telling you that a fork is going to do what we need to do right here. Now, I mix the dry ingredients first, and once the dry ingredients are done, then I will do the softened butter. So make sure this butter is really room temperature. It's not going to work with a cold butter. Even if you try to cut it in, I don't think it would give the same effect, but perhaps it would. Perhaps. So, all right, I'm going to get this butter in here, and then we're going to mix it like heck until we get it to a crumbly consistency. All right, so keep watching so you know what you're looking for. All right, so this is after white. You see I'm intently looking at the mixture, but I got it to where I want to get it, and you get a nice amount of this. So if you can keep this after you bake it, you can keep it in the refrigerator for like a week. So if you can think to do some cookies or an apple pie and put the crumb mixture on the top, this is going to work. So I got a small pan here. I'm going to put half of it on there. I'm going to bake half of it in the oven. Then I'm going to let you see what it looks like, once it comes out. So spread it out, 350-degree oven. I will tell you 15 minutes, but it took me 30 minutes. If you got a super hot stove, then I'll tell you between 15 and 30 minutes, but keep watching your mixture so it doesn't burn. So actually, to be honest with you, it took me like 23 minutes to get it to this point. Now this is crispy, so we want a crunchy crumble topping. All right, so that's what it should look like. Those bigger pieces, you can break those up by hand just like that. So the glaze is too easy. I've been making them so long, I eyeball them. So I'm going to have to look up some measurements or figure it out, and then I will list that in the description box down below. But meanwhile, check out how easy this is to make. So I'm just going to dump some powdered sugar into the bowl. And remember, we're going to use the juice from the peaches. So that's going to give us a nice peach flavored glaze. So even though I have a mound of sugar in there, you see that I'm only going to pour a little bit of liquid at a time, because a little bit of liquid with a glaze goes a long way. All right, so we want a really thick glaze here. So we're not looking for one of those thin ones. And then mind you, the cake is all the way cooled off. That's what we want. I don't want to glaze a warm cake at this point. I want to make sure it's cool, because I want my glaze to stay on the outside along with the crumble and the peach topping. All right, so we're going to stir this, and when we get it that's how thick we want it. So it's that easy. Glaze is done. The easiest way for me to glaze a cake is I normally get a sheet pan like I have right here, covered in wax paper or aluminum foil, and then I'll put a cooling rack on top of it, and I'll put the cake on there. That way the glaze can just run down, because if you put it on your cake plate right now and you glaze it, you're gonna have a lot of glaze pooling around the outside and the inside of your cake. So if you don't want that, then this method right here is easy, and it's easy cleanup as well. All right, so I'm just gonna do right with my whisk. I'm gonna go back and forth with this glaze. Now if you come up with some kind of design you want to do, by all means do that, but I'm just going to show you the way that I do it. Alright, so this glaze is going to sit on it. It's going to set. Once it sets, then I'll move the cake over to the cake plate. So here the glaze is going to hold the crumb topping on the top of it, if you understand what I'm saying. So put as much or as little glaze as you like. This cake is so good. It's decadent. It is beautiful. Take your time decorating it. I'm telling you, it's worth it. It's worth every bit of the time that you take. So if you're going to do something special this holiday season, oh man, this peach cobbler cake is it. And if you want to use that peach crown royal in it, you can do that too, that apple crown royal. So people put liquor in here. If you want to use a rum, you can. I told you, the variations are endless. If you can think it or dream it, you can do it. All right, so you can flavor this glaze with some type of liquor if you want to do it. You can. I'm telling you. Ooh-wee. All right, so yeah, the glaze on. We're going to move on to our crumb topping. Just haphazardly sprinkle this all over. This stuff is so good. It's so addictive. If you start eating it, you start snacking on it. I'm telling you, it's really delicious. But okay, so again, just like the glaze, put as much or as little of this crumb topping as you like. It's so good. You're going to put as much as you can. I'm telling you, you will. All right, so now we're going to move on to that peach topping. One of those big cans of peaches, cut all of your peaches in half. You can do it in thirds if you want to. All right, so you're going to put some cinnamon, some nutmeg in here with a little bit of the peach juice, and then you're going to put a little bit of cornstarch. Now, if you're not sure about that cornstarch, put cornstarch and a little bit of water in here with that. Make a little slurry, put it in here. It's going to thicken this up. This is so good. If you want to leave your cake like this, you can. It's very beautiful. Look at it. But, all right, if you're going to do the peach topping, you're going to let it cool off a little bit, and then you're going to start putting it on here. So just take your time, put it on the top, let some of the juice drizzle down the side. Beautiful cake, all right? So start putting your peaches, and I'm going to show you what it looked like once I was done. So you saw that before with just the crumbs. Well, here's the after with the peaches. So this cake, trust me, you've got that brown sugar flavor on the inside of it. So I've got brown sugar and rum, and then you've got this crumb topping with this glaze and this decadent peach mixture on the top. You can't beat it. I'm telling you guys, try this cake. It's not as hard as you think it is. Try it. You'll like it. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. See y'all next time. For more great recipes, tips, and ideas, check out some of my other videos.